I'll quickly introduce myself and then ask Yuval to introduce herself. I've worked in marketing for 15 years. Most recently, I was a CMO at a Series B tech company. Currently, I'm a fractional CMO and a business growth consultant. I help B2B companies acquire customers and grow their revenue. I'm based in the US, out of Chicago, and I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Yuval, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, thank you so much. So I'm Yuval. I am the ethical email strategist. I also happen to love pasta and everything to do with food. Well, maybe not everything, but most of the things that has to do with the food. But I'm a full-time nomad, and I'm also helping both personal brands and e-commerce brands to grow their audiences and sell more through emails, all the while basically developing inbox experiences that stand out and make impact. So, yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Yuval. So I'm curious, how did you get into email marketing?
So, it's quite funny because for me to explain how I got to where I am today, I really need to explain where I started. And I started as a journalist in the Israeli army at the age of 17. I was born and raised in Israel, and I had to go to the army. That's just the law. And I landed in the army's largest radio station. It owns a radio station that has a 50% reach every single day. So for 3 years, from the age of 17 to almost the age of 21, I was a journalist, and I was reporting on hardcore news stories. And to be honest with you, many of the times I was sent to cover stories that didn't really align with my own values and really contradicted my moral compass. So when I got out of there from someone who really loved and enjoyed writing, I basically went on a writing hiatus for 7 years. And all the while, I actually changed countries and continents. I moved to Berlin to study something else entirely. I studied sound engineering, and I really wanted to pursue some other dream of mine, which is music production and songwriting. I might get into it at a later stage in life. But yeah, I wasn't writing for anyone, and I was working in gastronomy and sales, and I did all kind of temporary gigs, and I always brought the best of me to each and every workplace that I worked in. And at some point, my body just started crashing down because it was very, very physically demanding to be on my feet and to do the same repetitive things over and over again. And I decided to basically start my business. I didn't know much. I didn't know what I wanted to do exactly, but I did know that I wanted to write for a living, and I did know that I wanted to make an impact and not just, sell ice cream or make coffee, because honestly, anyone can do that. And not to be disrespectful to baristas or whoever is selling ice cream, you're doing fabulous work and I appreciate you. But what I wanted to say by that is that I started by writing blogs for all kinds of companies, mostly startups, and slowly but surely all of them kind of wanted me to write their websites and their new landing pages and also their emails. And at that point, I kind of felt that the world is giving me signs that this is my time and place to niche down and specialize in whatever it is I choose. And I kept asking myself, all right, as a storyteller, what kind of medium can I use to really tell a story fully and completely and to an audience that wants to hear it? And the more I tapped into email marketing, the more I realized that this is where I want to be. The only thing that I had to solve for myself is realizing, how do I do email marketing in a way that doesn't come across as salesy or sleazy or aggressive, which is most of the email marketing that we still see out there through years and years of experimentations. I got here today, and honestly, I could not be more grateful for this journey.
Thank you. It's great to hear about your story. So, Yuval, many LinkedIn creators are trying to get their audience into an email list. So, I have three questions related to that. So, my first question is, why email marketing? and why is it important to build an email list right now?
Okay, so as we all know, even though we are on LinkedIn, we are not we don't own the platform. Email marketing is perhaps the only or among the only platforms that you actually own. And if LinkedIn is changing the algorithm tomorrow morning, you might not have the same reach that you've had for the past half a year or a year, and you might have worked very, very hard on it. So LinkedIn is not really here to serve you. It's only here to serve themselves and their own growth plans. And so owning your own platform is something that I highly, highly recommend you to do. Obviously, I'm completely biased, right? But at the same time, we also have to keep in mind that email marketing, for effect, for dozens and dozens of years, have the highest ROI, return on investment, in when we're comparing that with SEO, when we compare that with social media. Usually we're talking about an ROI of anywhere between 36 to $44 for each dollar that you're spending on it.
I know recently there's been a lot of discussion about LinkedIn's algorithm changes, even a lot of confusion around it. Because if you read the original article that talked about it, the article said that a lot of these changes were already made a few months ago. But I know a lot of the concern was, hey, if I'm getting less reach with my posts as a creator, that's going to impact the number of leads and the amount of business I'm able to generate from LinkedIn. But obviously, for creators who have an email list or have been building one, they just don't have to worry about those changes as much because they own that list.
And way beyond that, your email list is your own playground. You can do whatever you want there, and there are no rules. And you can basically change up and spice up things as you see fit according to your content and email strategy as a whole, which is not something that you can necessarily do on other platforms that, again, you do not own.
Yeah, I love that. So Yuval, that brings me to my second question on this topic. What's the right way to build an email marketing list or do email marketing?
I wouldn't say there's necessarily just one right way to do that, and that's the ethical part of me speaking. I actually am trying to be very careful, either saying anything of that sort, or I'm very aware when anyone is telling me, "Oh, there's only one way to do whatever." So there is no one way to do whatever it is, especially when it comes to marketing. And I just wanted to put this disclaimer out before I continue plowing through. But what I wanted to say here is, how do you really build an intentional list? Basically, if you want to start by offering some kind of an entry freebie, which is what I call lead magnets, a horrible term. But if you offer an entry freebie, make it count and make it, an exchange that is worth your new subscribers. Worth time. It's worth their time, their efforts, and them giving you their private information, because after all, this is an exchange and it needs to be equal. Then, if you choose to have a welcome sequence, again, make it count. Also, manage the expectations right from the get go. Give people the option to really make the adventure their own and play around with how they receive your emails and how they interact and engage with your emails. So that's something that's really, really important to do, especially when we know that the first 48 hours of anyone entering your email list, these are the most crucial that's the most crucial time window to make a good first impression. That's the time when people are the most engaged with your list and with your emails, plural, hopefully. And then keep gathering feedback and first party and zero party data all the time. Talk with your subscribers and build a really intentional and well balanced strategy that balances both nurturing and sales, because at the end of the day, we're all here for a reason. each and every one of us in this room right now is fully aware that whenever they sign up for a new email list, they are going to be pitched and they are going to be suggested some kind of a solution. The thing that I'm with my working on with my clients is basically how do we balance it out to not burn or exhaust our subscribers, and how do we actually cater to those who are ready for our offers right now. So how do we find that balance? It's a constant iteration process and tweaking process, but again, I love email marketing. I think it's a very, very strong asset for every company out there, any brand out there. And it's just really about being intentional and listening to your subscribers and seeing what do they want to hear and see from you next.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that it's an iterative process because I think you're right. I think depending on the audience, the list, what your company's doing, what the goals are, sort of different rhythms, sequences, and even how frequently you reach out and things like that, all of those can change. So, Yuval, what mistakes should people avoid when doing email marketing?
There are so many. Oh my gosh. First and foremost, and yet again, that's the ethical side. Please do not use any fake scarcity or any fake urgency. It shows and it burns out your list. Um, Let me just put it out there. That's another disclaimer in case anyone is not, up to speed. Buying lists is a big no no. Okay? Please do not do that. But when you do build your list intentionally, then these are the mistakes to avoid. So we said no fake scarcity or urgency because no one likes to be pushed into a corner. um, Other things to do, to avoid, actually, referring to your subscribers as a group of people without a face or a name. At the end of the day, we all want to feel special, and the inbox experience that we're curating for ourselves as recipients is very, very personal. I don't know about you, Andrew, but I kind of hate seeing all of those newsletters right now where they say, like, hello to, I don't know, 42,138 subscribers today on my newsletter. No, I don't care how many other people are on your list. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the only special one, and that's how I want to feel. Right. So that's something that I think you need to avoid. Um, just basically spraying, and just speaking to everyone. Speak to one person. It shows. Not having fun with it is something that I see a lot in my inbox. And I think that when you're not having fun with your emails, even if your brand is extremely serious and very, very intentional with what you're doing, if you're not having fun with it, it definitely shows. So please avoid not having fun with your emails. Um, I can go on and on and on. Just stop me at whichever point, Andrew. Seriously.
I think those few things that you mentioned, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I see it all the time. And I think it's just maybe it's just because email has been around for a while. I think it's one of those areas where there is a lot of mistakes. A lot of people just feel like, hey, it's just as simple as writing something and just sending it out. So Yuval, what are some things you're seeing that were considered best practices but don't work anymore?
That used to be best practices are not working anymore. Something that I'm seeing less and less of, thankfully, is email subject lines that start with re or forward, even though I've never interacted with you before. And that is a trick to get people into opening your email, which is not a very reliable stat to begin with. So that's just shitty, and I wouldn't do that at all. Aside from that, what I like seeing less and less of, and it used to be a best practice, is just pushing people. toward a sale without letting them opt out of the sale or snoozing the sales email. So nowadays we see more and more brand owners and brands in general just giving a soft opt out option from an automated email sequence, which I personally absolutely love. I think it needs to be implemented in each and every automated sequence, whether it's a sales sequence or not. Another thing that I'm seeing less and less of that used to be a best practice is basically sending emails. I mean, it's not really a best practice, but just not using segments to the best of their abilities and then just sending the same emails to everyone. And nowadays, thankfully, we see more brands using segments and asking for zero party and first party data. Um, just to basically segment their list and sending more relevant emails to their subscribers. And if I'm already touching on zero party and first party data, and that's the last thing that I would mention here, I'm seeing more and more of that and less of relying on third party data and all kinds of cookies that maybe your website has gathered and mined, and just relying on that in terms of what to send to your subscribers and even how to find your subscribers in the first place.
I love your point about the soft opt-outs, and I think it goes back to how you said, like allowing people to choose their own adventure with emails and sequences. So that makes a lot of sense. Yuval, what kind of strategies are you seeing work for your clients these days?
Love that question. Thank you. So one of the strongest strategy that I see that is working for my clients nowadays is first and foremost just leading with values and speaking, as from humans to humans, and basically sharing things as they are. No one is trying to be this picture perfect, I don't know, Instagram, LinkedIn model, influencer, whatever. Transparency is really, really working to any brand that I'm working with to in their favor. And that's something that I think a lot of people just resonate with. And that's why it's working for my clients tremendously right now. Another strategy that I would mention here is the Pareto principle, also known as the 80/20 rule. 80% could be nurturing, providing value, and 20% selling or basically offering or suggesting your solutions, your offer, or your offers, plural. And I think starting with that balance to begin with is very, very powerful because that way you're not really exhausting your audience and you're giving way more than you're asking or receiving, which at the end of the day, people like to buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So first of all, get to the trust point, and from there we can actually start talking. So the 80/20 rule can actually really, really help with that. um, the third strategy that I see that is working tremendously well for my subscribers and my clients right now is gamification. Again, choose your own adventure, both in terms of the overall customer journey as a whole and providing multiple of them. So just imagine this very branched out, complicated, beautiful tree of automations of emails that are basically each email is bringing you to a new one, and you're basically just gamifying the entire thing. It's really fun. So that's one thing in the gamification aspect, but also inside of the email itself, because gamification, I also link it to personalization, and there's so much more to personalization beyond the first name tag, merch tag. So that's the whenever you're seeing your name popping up when you're receiving an email from anyone. There's so much more beyond that, and you can really have fun with it and gamify your email inside of the email itself. So that's really working well. The fourth strategy that is working really, really fantastically is storytelling and what a colleague of mine called momentization. And that one is working especially for the personal brand owners that I work with. So, really capturing that moment, it could be like this very small moment in a whole very ordinary day to day occurrence. And that moment would be super, super relatable, and capturing that moment and starting to tell the story from that moment and basically dropping your reader into the situation in the middle of everything is really, really strong, especially when you're just trying to nurture that trust to begin with a new subscriber. So really dropping them into the story kind of almost unannounced. So that's storytelling and momentization. But and I mentioned the fifth one beforehand, segmentation, wise segmentation according to your overall strategy. So really sending the most relevant emails to those who either asked for those emails or took specific actions or made purchases or opted in or out of a specific sequence or did something to show you that they're interested or might be interested in those specific emails that you're sending out.
I love those strategies. I was actually taking notes. And I think the storytelling one is a great one. I think, not to pick on B2B, but I know in B2B specifically, I still don't see enough storytelling, or if it's used, it's usually used like in a gimmicky way. It's not someone actually telling like an experience that's relatable, but I like your idea of using it with new subscribers or new people that are opting into your list to build a deeper connection. I love that idea. So Yuval, if people want to learn more, what should they do next?
Well, they definitely need to click on my name, go to my profile, and join my free email challenge, which kicks off next week on Monday. And you're gonna get a shit ton of knowledge and value. And I kid you not, I'm crazy for giving all of this for free. I just recorded the entire thing today and I am beyond exhausted, to be fully honest with you, because I just stood up and I talked for like all in all like 3 hours. Okay, so you're not going to you're not going to get 3 hours of me talking, but you are going to get 5 days of actionable tips, myth busting about email marketing, and daily tasks, as well as a free webinar at the end of that week. So join. You'd be honestly crazy not to. And let's just have a chat. Just generally, let's connect and have a chat and see where you're at with your emails. I would love to hear from you.
I love how you made it like a structured program because I feel like a lot more people would not just go through it, but I think they'll get a lot more value out of it and a lot more likely to actually follow through with some of the advice.